Watch your people. Welcome to this week's Sunday sermon. I hope you're all enjoying a nice relaxing Sunday, because I'm sure you deserve it after a full-on chaotic week. It's amplified all the time, isn't it? It's always leveling up, which is fun, isn't it, eh? What a funny time to be alive, everyone. So, this week's Sunday sermon. You know, every week I feel like I'm saying the same thing, right? Is that like, wow, this is so important. And it is. And I feel like that's sometimes that can be overwhelming when we look around at our world. It's like, well, fucking, where do I direct this activism? Oh my God, fucking hell, there's too much. You know, what thing shall I go after? Well, I think the thing is that we just have to see how we feel in any given moment, right? And I feel like if we're able to put a little bit of focus on all of the things that we see that are perhaps negative or imbalanced in our world, I'm sure as soon as we focus and home in on that, whatever aspect that is, we definitely make positive change there, whether we know it or not. Whether it's tangible or not, I don't know. I don't pretend to. So last week, right, it was all about the Sunday sermon, that is. It was all about us having been convinced about this very, very, very powerful, deeply embedded lie that we've been told, where we're sort of in this situation where we're like, well, how can I change the world? You know, like little old me, what can I do about it? And of course we can do everything. But while we're investing in that story, that little old me can't do anything, then we've just bought in to that lie, haven't we? And that's showed up our entire lives, as I explained in last week's Sunday sermon. Our whole lives, we've been conditioned by that lie. They've spent trillions convincing us that we've got no power, you know. And why would they do that? You know, why would they do that? Because they're aware of the power that mankind has got. They're aware of what we really are, this multi-dimensional being of light. And they're terrified of us working that out. Because when we all do, we reach critical mass and then it will implode. They will implode. So, of course, look, you know, much of my output over the last few years has been about people building upon their relationship with that part of themselves. I've had life-changing transformation in my reality, in my relationships, in my energy levels, in my focus levels, in my consciousness. All of that is because I invest in that relationship with me now. You know, I'm actually getting to know myself really well, and I'm really enjoying what I find. And that's a really beautiful sign, right? When you can start to really love yourself for all of your baggage and stories and all your warts and all of that, scars and your battle wounds, all of it. And once you do, more of what we really are starts to come to the surface. So, of course, like I mentioned in the newsletter, that should be like priority numero uno, is what I said, because I'm multilingual, in case you didn't know. And so if that's our priority, is that we're always, that's the first thing we're doing, right, in our lives, is an element of investing in that relationship with the divinity in us, to practice self-care, and then we just become better people from the inside out, and then we affect the world in a positive way. But this is the thing, right? I think many people, like myself, we like evidence, don't we? We want some fucking evidence. We want something tangible to do. And I get that, right? Because there's a part of me in my very, very, you know, my critical analysis of reality is that I always want stuff to be proven to me, you know, and once I've got proof, then I feel that I can work with something. So once we've started to build upon that relationship with ourselves and we started to harness some of that dormant power, what do we do with it? What are we going to go and do with all that? Are we just going to fly around with a cape on? Dun, 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 dun. I mean, of course, that'd be fun. If we're going to unlock flying in the next few years, I'll be absolutely made up because it's something I've wanted to do for a long time. But I'm talking about more about how that part of us starts to manifest into our world. All right. And because we could say it's an upgrade in consciousness, let's say, right? And I mean that in the sense that, like, around this time round, Danny, this time round, I feel like I've got it. I've remembered. Oh, fuck, that's what I am. Fucking hell. But maybe I've done that in all my previous lives as well. I've got to this sort of point and gone, oh, I get it. And then all of a sudden, you know, I die. I follow the false light and they wipe my memory. And then I'm back going, bah, bah, again, crying my eyes out like a newborn. Forgot everything. But I do think this is different this time, right? I do feel like we are upgrading our consciousness in a way that, as far as I'm aware, hasn't been accessible, at least not to me and my people. But, you know, I look around and see that there is 100% evidence of a great awakening. You know, there really is. And once we've sort of, that really, really upgraded conscious part of us, it wants to now come into form into this setting that we're in. Then how do we do that? You know? And I feel like I'm always like really, because I've got a very pragmatic approach to life, I always want to try to figure out, well, what can we do, you know? Of course, there's an element of the being, which I love as well, but I like to do stuff, you know? I want to see the problem and find the solution, you know? And one of the things is that if we take money, for an example, right? Like, many of us have given over our life force in the pursuit of money. And of course, like, the money is just a medium to how we can support our families and ourselves in this reality. But once we've gone out of our way and we've given our life force for it, our energy and our time, a lot, and much of the time we've done that, like, it's at the expense of what we really want to be doing, at the expense of our dreams, at the expense of our creativity, at the expense of our self-respect sometimes. And, you know, very often it's at the expense of the relationships that we hold dear to us. You know, like many of us, including myself, not so much now because my life's changed, but in the very early years of my daughter's lives, I was away for months, you know. I spent a long time away from them. And every time I did, I was heartbroken. I mean, I've got to be honest, when you've got two screaming fucking twins that have got quite bad colic and you're now off on a train to London for a month, I've got to be honest, the first 8 hours is fucking bliss. But after that, you know, you just want to be back home. You just want to be with the people you love. Spend time with those that you hold dear. And so if we look at that and we say, like, we've substituted that part of ourselves, those relationships, we've kind of surrendered them in the pursuit of money, and albeit for the very valuable task of providing for those people, still there is, you know, that shows that there is a lot of energetic value that goes in to that money. So if we've got that, we end up with that money, right? We've now got that money. and that's in a material form. We've traded our energy and our life force over for that. And now we've got that money. And what do we do with that? That's a powerful, powerful tool there. And that's not me, like, I'm not giving sort of any, like, real value to money, because I see it as, it's just energy to me, right? It's just a flow. But it does show up in its material form as a symbol of value in our lives, all right? So, of course, like, there's flow and there's energy and there's all good stuff behind that, like when we've gone out and earned it, and it shows up in the medium of money. And so then we take that, full of that, of our life force, because we can't see that, right? But that's what it is, isn't it? You know, if you go and work a week's work and, you know, you're doing 16-hour days and you're absolutely shattered, and then you've got your money there, that it's absolutely interwoven with our life force, whether we like it or not. And then what we do with that money, there is a massive impact that has on our world. And we don't often, we're not aware of that, because mainly I think because of convenience. Because very often we've traded our convenience, we've traded our freedom, for convenience. A lot of what we look at now, like how things are so, like, I mean, you can just press a button and you can get things delivered to your house. Yeah, whether that would be food, whether that would be media, clothes, whatever you want. You know, you can just turn your TV on and you've got fucking everything you want on your remote control. Like, everything is so convenient now by design. And to a degree, that's detached us, disconnected us from the story or the way that all of this plays out, right? Because if it's just by convenience, we're not even thinking about it, just going, oh yeah, because that's just what I do now, that's just how it arrives. And what we're actually doing is we're supporting a company, mostly conglomerate companies, you know, multinational corporations. We're supporting them, and they're behind the demise of mankind. And I know, like, it might seem like, well, that's just me doing that. But imagine if that was everyone. You know, imagine all of us are going out of our houses and we're shopping at this mainstream place that is attached to all of the very, very negative corporations in this world that we know now are behind this very, very insidious and nefarious plan for the enslavement of mankind. And so somewhere in that, we've got a opportunity, haven't we? We've got a choice. And because things are so convenient, we're not even making that choice anymore. It's just like, well, that's done, you know, and it happens so almost automatically now that we're caught up in this cycle where we're supporting our abuser. You know, those who are looking to harm us are being supported by us. And when you strip it back and you take a different perspective, you look at it like that, you go, fucking hell. You know? It's us. You know, I'm always saying, it's us all along. I knew it. It was me all along. And there's a certain element of truth in that. Because we're fueling it, aren't we? You know, look, and I'll be honest, right? Like, if you look at our lifestyles, there's things that I can't, like, at the moment, and I'm always very, very sometimes hard on myself, if I'm going to be honest, because I want to do better and I want to be a shining example. I want the words that come out my mouth to be the ones that I'm following in my life, you know, strictly, with discipline, with commitment. But sometimes that's very challenging because I don't like fucking iPhones, you know, I don't like social media. But I'm very aware that currently, like, to be able to continue my output to the world, which I feel is very valuable, then I need to stay within this arena, all right? And of course, you could argue that because of the message that I'm putting out, that I'm transmuting some of this stuff, and I believe that's happening as well. So there's parts of our lives we could say, like, do you know what? I actually really, really need this phone. I really, really need this social media account. I really, really need this device, or I need that coat, that bit of clothing, because I believe that's serving me a purpose that transmutes or is even more positive than the negative way that it was created. That's something you have to ask yourself, right? Like, that's something we all have to ask ourselves. I don't think there's one size fits all. I think it's a case of us taking stock of our lives, checking in and looking where we're spending our money and seeing if we can, instead of shopping conveniently, we can shop consciously. And I mean, like, I told this story a few weeks ago, didn't I? That I don't know if anyone remembers it, but I was looking for this product, right? And it was like very safe, BPA safe, like really decent plastic bottles for to put water in, drinking water. And I looked everywhere, and I'd done my research. And I come back, well, these are the ones, right? And they're German made, and I do trust the German engineering. I know maybe that's maybe that's a cliche that I need to wander away from, but I have always found, in my experience, that there's they're a level above a lot of the time. And so I've done this research, gone to this company, pressed the thing in, it shot me straight to Amazon. And then I was like, oh, I don't want to shop on Amazon. So then I went to the company and I explained that. And then they come back to me and they said, well, you know, you can do this, you can do that. So I went through these hoops and that didn't work and they wouldn't ship to me. And all of this stuff went on. And I got to the point where I have to admit I was frustrated, right? And because I was sort of like, I'd pinned my hopes on like my research was these were the bottles I need. I was like, all right, it's not going to harm it. You know, I'm just gonna do it this once. And after that, I didn't feel good about that decision because I thought I probably could have spent a bit more time looking for something else. And because of the way these massive corporations are set up in our reality, they are like, the convenience is so readily available that, and they make it so incredibly difficult for us to be able to shop anywhere else. And everything just throws you back to the main players. So like, I personally have experienced, you know, very recently, and I'm sure I will again, where I'm having to bite my nails in how I use my purchases to be as conscious as possible. Because what am I supporting when I do that? You know, is that okay with me? It's not, is it? I don't feel good about that. Whereas if, like, there's loads of little independent businesses that I use, whether it's, you know, in the UK, in Belgium or in Spain, people I know face to face, places, shops that I go to, where I do my best to spend cash, and I have a relationship with them. They know me, I know them, I know that they're good people, I know that they're conscious, so I know that the money I give them is going to be used consciously. It's going to be going to more products that have been created consciously, have been harvested consciously. So there's sort of like two different commerce systems going on in our world, you know? And I'm not saying that we can always get it right, because I just gave my experience where I feel like, you know, I could have done better. But if there's two running, and we've always got that opportunity to pick the one that is more aligned and resonates more with us and what we want to do in this work, in this earth. And I just feel that's becoming more and more important, you know. And I've talked about this for a long time. This is not the first video that I've made about our conscious commerce, you know, how we spend our money. But I feel like now, like, what it's getting to the point that many of us have got to check in more, you know, me included, take stock more of like, do I need that? Do I really, really need that? Can I find that somewhere else, or an alternative to that, without having to support this business, this corporation that I know is behind, very, very likely to be owned by BlackRock or Vanguard, and we know, you know, what happens when we get in bed with them. can I find somewhere else? Do I need that? You know, all of these questions, I just feel like that is just us becoming even more and more responsible and accountable for the way that we live in this world, isn't it? You know? So, yeah, I mean, a good place to start is what I've done many times is when you're shopping, you know. Can we buy our food from independent places, littler businesses? Sometimes that means that we have to pay more, you know, but is that a little bit extra that we're giving, is that a positive thing to support the blossoming of what we want to see in this world? Is a higher level of consciousness in all aspects. You know, if we can do that, there are alternatives out there a lot of the time. And I actually feel if we don't put too much seriousness on it and too much heaviness on it, and it's just a case of like, do you know what? This is going to be fun. Let me see how conscious I can be this week. You know, let me see if I can find out where all of these products are found or made. And I mean, as far as I'm aware, there's some really, really cool apps where you can take pictures of barcodes and they tell you everything about the product. You know, so I can't remember what they're called, but if I find them, I'll be able to share them on the MYGA space this Sunday. Because that's what the MYGA space this Sunday is going to be about. It's going to be called Unsupportive. So just to sort of really build the picture of who's behind these companies and to look at alternative companies. And do you know what? That's a wonderful opportunity for people, because if you're watching this on Sunday, it's not Sunday now, let me tell you. Oh no. If you're watching this on Sunday and you're planning to join our MYGA space this evening, then you could bring along some examples of companies that you've had a really beautiful experience with, and that you could say that you have built a relationship of trust with in the way that they handle themselves, in the way their business is set up, in where they source their goods and their products and their ingredients. And I feel like that's just, for me, it just feels like a natural progression for us to be really much more conscious about everything we do in this world. And one of the biggest things is being the consumer, being the conscious consumer. And like I said, I feel like that it's just another beautiful cosmic invitation for us just to get a little bit more aware, just to get a little bit more aligned, a little bit more resonant with that fills us with the good stuff, as opposed to supporting the stuff that we know deeply, we know now inherently is not good for us or our world. And if we all done that, there's been lots of publicity around boycotts over the years. They're very effective. They really are effective. You know, we don't feel that because we're back into that sort of story of little old me, I can't do anything. But imagine if all of a sudden there was 100,000 people that just said, do you know what? I'm not doing that. These companies, they're so big, they've got so much expenditure, right, that even just a little crack appears, it can absolutely fuck them. It can ruin them. And so if we start to see it from that perspective, like if just the change starts with me, and then that ripples onto someone else, and to someone else, and to someone else, and we all start to shop consciously, they're going to just fall to pieces before our very eyes. They really will. They've become so greedy, so fat and heavy, that they can't support themselves. And it's us, fucking us, supporting them. So let's pull the fucking rug from underneath them, innit? Eh? Let's pull the rug from underneath them. And listen, if this video has got you fired up and you're now just about to turn this off, or even take it with you, carry on listening, and open your cupboards and pull everything out and start to look at what really you're supporting, You know, go out in the back garden and cut all your clothes up. Listen, whatever you got to do, it's up to you, isn't it? It's your life. It's your life, all right? If that's your Sunday, you enjoy yourself. But it doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be cinematic. It doesn't have to be drastic. It's just little by little, you know? Every little helps. That's transmuted that fucking motto, isn't it? That slogan. We'll have that. Anyway, people, if you can, join us tonight on MYGA, because last week, based on some incredibly powerful contributions, I mean, I found out some stuff this week from MYGA on Sunday that has just opened my eyes up massively, massively. And I'm trying to find the lady, Barbara, I think her name was, trying to find her to actually dedicate a MYGA space to the biogeometry that she brought forward. She brought forward in last week's MYGA, which you'll be able to watch on our YouTube channel once it's uploaded. But yeah, sometimes these things take time for us to do, right? You know, like there's just me, is the face and the media and the writing and all this, that stuff of the project. But behind the scenes, there's people with kids and lives and jobs and stuff, you know, so that they're just giving whatever they can, you know, to help this project move forward. So your patience is always gratefully received as well. I think that's it from me, innit? Have I covered everything about how we can take our power back from those fucking bastards? If I haven't, let me know. Maybe see you tonight. Ta-da.